This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Max and Mia podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, we are so glad you are here. Whether you are listening on your commute, at the gym, or maybe you are supposed to be working right now, we won't tell anyone. Hope you're doing well.
So, we've got a massive episode today. And I say massive because this is a topic that scares almost everyone.
Definitely. We've been wanting to discuss this for a while because we get so many messages about it. Today, we are talking about job interviews.
Specifically, job interviews in English. And look, I know we live in a world with translation apps, AI subtitles, and all that tech. But let's be real. When you are sitting in that chair or staring at that Zoom camera, English skills still matter a huge amount.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about grammar, Max. It's about confidence. It's about culture. Especially if you are aiming for international companies or remote roles in the US or Europe. You need to know not just what to say, but how to say it.
Exactly. So today's episode is going to be a deep dive. We are going to analyze real interview simulations. We're going to look at business vocabulary, the fancy words managers love.
The buzzwords.
Yes, the buzzwords. We will talk about how to handle those tricky trap questions they throw at you to see if you panic.
And we are also going to cover something very specific, the group interview. How do you stand out without being aggressive?
That is a fine line to walk. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable. We are going to break this down step by step so you feel prepared for your next big opportunity.
Let's get started.
All right? Before we play our first interview tape, we need to arm you with some vocabulary. You are going to hear the candidate Daniel use some specific business terms. If you don't know them, you might miss the nuance of his answer.
Right. The first term I want you to listen for is pain points.
Pain points. It sounds like something physical, like, ouch, my back hurts.
No, not physical pain. In business, a pain point is a specific problem, frustration, or challenge that a customer is facing.
Right. So, if I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, the pain point isn't the dust. The pain point is that the customer hates spending 20 minutes cleaning a rug that should take 5 minutes.
Exactly. If you can identify the pain point, you can sell the solution. Managers love candidates who talk about solving problems, not just selling features.
Okay, next term to listen for, KPIs.
This stands for Key Performance Indicators. It is just corporate language for how we measure if you are doing a good job.
Numbers, targets, sales quotas, conversion rates. Those are all KPIs. If you use this acronym in an interview, you sound like a professional who cares about results.
And one last phrase to catch in this first interview, ramp up period.
Oh, that's a good one. A ramp is like an incline you drive up. A ramp-up period is the time it takes for a new employee to get trained, learn the systems, and start working at full speed.
Asking about the ramp-up period shows you are realistic. You know you won't be perfect on day one, but you are ready to learn fast.
All right, so we have the vocabulary. Now, the context. This interview is for a sales position, but even if you aren't in sales, listen to the structure of the answers.
And pay close attention to 2 trap questions. First, what is your biggest weakness?
Everyone's favorite nightmare.
And second, the conflicting priorities trap. The interviewer will ask what happens when two bosses give you urgent work at the same time.
This is where most people fail. Let's see how Daniel handles it.
Good morning, Daniel. Thanks for coming in today.
Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So I've reviewed your resume, and I see you have experience in customer relations. That's definitely relevant for this role. Before we dive deeper, though, could you tell me a bit about yourself and what attracted you to this position?
Sure. Well, I've been working in customer-facing roles for about 4 years now. I started in retail management, which taught me a lot about understanding client needs and building relationships. What really drew me to this position was the focus on consultative selling. I've always believed that sales isn't just about pushing products, it's about finding solutions that genuinely help the client.
I appreciate that perspective. Consultative selling is definitely at the core of what we do here. We're looking for someone who can identify pain points and position our services as the right fit. Speaking of which, can you walk me through your approach when you're dealing with a potential client who seems hesitant or unsure?
Absolutely. First, I'd focus on active listening. A lot of times, hesitation comes from uncertainty or a lack of information. So I'd ask open-ended questions to understand their concerns better. Then I'd address those specific issues by highlighting relevant features or sharing case studies of similar clients who've had success with us. The goal is to build trust and show that I'm there to support them, not just close a deal.
That's solid. Trust is everything in this industry. Now, let's talk about metrics for a moment. In your previous role, did you have specific targets or KPIs you were expected to meet?
Yes, definitely. We had quarterly revenue targets and also tracked conversion rates, average deal size, and customer retention. I consistently met or exceeded my targets, and in my last quarter, I actually increased my conversion rate by 18% by refining my follow-up strategy.
That's impressive. Follow-up is often where deals are won or lost. How did you refine that process?
I started using a CRM tool more strategically. Instead of generic follow-ups, I personalized each message based on the conversation we'd had. I also set reminders to check in at key decision-making points rather than waiting too long. It made a noticeable difference.
Good use of tools. We rely heavily on our CRM here as well, so that experience will come in handy. Now, I want to ask you something that might feel a bit uncomfortable, but it's important. What would you say is your biggest weakness?
That's a tough one. I'd say I can be a bit of a perfectionist.
Is that right?
I know, it sounds like a cliché, but honestly, in the past, I've paralyzed myself by spending way too much time refining proposals because I wanted them to be flawless. It actually caused a delay in a project last year. What I've learned, though, is that sometimes done is better than perfect, especially when timing matters. So now I set clear timers for myself to stop tweaking and just deliver the work.
That's a very self-aware answer. And honestly, being detail-oriented isn't necessarily a bad thing in sales, as long as it doesn't slow you down. It sounds like you found a system.
I'm working on it, yeah.
All right, here's another scenario for you. Let's say you're in a situation where you have two urgent deadlines, both due tomorrow morning. One is a proposal for Manager A, and the other is a presentation for Manager B. Both are insisting their project is the priority. What do you do?
Well, that's tricky. I think I'd probably just work late and try to get both done. I mean, if they're both urgent, I can't really say no to either of them, right? So I'd do my best to finish both, even if it means staying up all night.
I see. So you'd prioritize completing both no matter what it takes.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to let either manager down.
Okay, I appreciate the dedication. Let me ask you one more thing before we wrap up. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
I'd like to be in a leadership position, ideally managing a small team. I think I have a lot to offer in terms of mentoring others. But I also want to keep learning and growing myself, so I'm looking for a company that invests in professional development.
That aligns well with our values here. Do you have any questions for me?
Just one. What does success look like in this role during the first 6 months?
Great question. In the first 6 months, we'd expect you to get comfortable with our product suite, build a pipeline of leads, and close at least a few deals. But more than anything, we want to see that you are integrating well with the team. Does that sound manageable?
Absolutely. That sounds like a reasonable ramp-up period.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for coming in. We'll be in touch within the next week or so.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, let's stop the tape there. There was a lot to unpack in that conversation.
So much. Daniel started really strong, but he stumbled hard at the end.
Before we get to the mistake, let's talk about the weakness question. Daniel said he was a perfectionist.
Okay, I have to be honest. As someone who has interviewed people, whenever I hear I am a perfectionist, I roll my eyes.
Why?
Because 90% of the time, it's a lie. It's a humble brag. The candidate is trying to say, oh, my weakness is that I just care too much and I work too hard. It feels fake. It feels like you are avoiding the question.
I agree. Usually it's a terrible answer. However, I actually think Daniel saved it here.
You think so?
Yes, and here is why. He didn't just stop at the label. He admitted that his perfectionism caused a real negative outcome. He said it caused a delay in a project. That makes it a real weakness, not a fake one.
That's a great point. He admitted a failure.
And then, this is the secret formula for this question. He explained the system he uses to fix it. He didn't just say, I'm trying to be better. He said, I set timers for myself.
Right. Concrete action. So listeners, if you are going to use a cliché weakness, you must prove you are actively managing it with a specific tool or habit. Otherwise, pick a different weakness.
Now, let's talk about the train wreck. The two managers question.
Oh, Daniel, he walked right into the trap.
The question was, two bosses give you urgent work due tomorrow. What do you do? Daniel said, I'll stay up all night and do both.
And I know many of you listening probably think, that's a good answer. It shows I am a hard worker. It shows dedication.
It shows you are a martyr.
Exactly. To a hiring manager, that answer screams burnout. It tells me you don't know how to manage your time. And worse, you don't know how to communicate.
If you say yes to everything, eventually the quality of your work drops. You can't do two urgent, massive projects in one night and expect them to be good.
So what should he have said?
The correct answer is communication and prioritization. You should say, I would contact both managers immediately. I would explain the conflict and ask them to help me decide which project is the priority for the business right now.
Simple. You put the ball back in their court. It shows you are mature enough to handle pressure without panicking.
I remember early in my career, I made Daniel's mistake. I said yes to everything. I ended up submitting terrible work because I was exhausted. My boss actually pulled me aside and said, Max, why didn't you just tell me you were overloaded?
It's a hard lesson to learn. It's not about being a hero. It's about being effective.
This brings up a really interesting debate about attitude versus skill. Mia and I were talking about this over coffee before the show.
Yeah, and we actually want to hear what you guys think about this. This is our question of the week.
Imagine you are the boss. You have a critical project due next month. You need to hire one person.
Candidate A is a genius, absolutely brilliant, top 1% technical skills. But they have a terrible attitude. They are arrogant, they don't listen, and they might be rude to coworkers.
Then you have candidate B. They are inexperienced. Maybe they are a bit slow. You will need to train them a lot. But they are an amazing team player. They are positive, kind, and eager to learn.
Who do you hire? The genius jerk or the friendly rookie?
Pause the podcast right now and think about it. Or drop a comment if you are watching this on video.
It's tough. If the deadline is next month, maybe you need the genius.
But the genius might destroy the team culture. A toxic person can ruin a whole department.
True. I think I lean toward candidate B. Skills can be taught. Attitude is forever.
I tend to agree. But in some industries like high-end coding or specialized surgery, maybe you tolerate the jerk? It's a real dilemma. Let us know what you think. Speaking of attitude and teamwork, that leads us perfectly into our next scenario. The group interview.
Ugh. Group interviews. These are becoming so popular and they are so stressful.
They are. You are literally sitting in a room or a Zoom call with your competition.
The dynamic is completely different. In a one-on-one interview, it's about you. In a group interview, it's about how you interact with others.
Are you a leader? Are you a listener? Do you interrupt? Do you stay silent?
We are going to listen to two candidates, Lucas and Yuki. They are applying for a supply chain role.
I want you to listen for a few things. First, listen to how they talk to each other, not just the manager.
And listen for a very specific idiom Yuki uses. Throw someone under the bus.
Oh, that is a classic. To throw someone under the bus means to sacrifice or blame a colleague to save yourself. It is a very negative thing to do in a team.
Also, listen for the word bottleneck. A bottleneck is the narrow part of a bottle where liquid gets stuck. In business, it means a stage in a process where everything slows down or gets backed up.
Okay, let's see how Lucas and Yuki handle the pressure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I know group interviews can feel a bit unusual, but we find they give us great insight into how candidates work with others. Let's start with introductions.
Sure, I'm Lucas. I've been working in logistics for about 3 years, mostly coordinating shipments. I'm looking to move into supply chain analysis because I want to be more involved in the strategic side.
Hi, I'm Yuki. I actually come from a finance background, doing financial planning. But I realized I'm more interested in operations and how things move through a system. Supply chain feels like the perfect fit for my analytical skills.
Great. Let's do a quick exercise. I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to work together to come up with a solution. Here it is. One of your key suppliers just informed you they'll be 2 weeks late on a shipment that's critical for a major client. What do you do?
Okay, so first thing, we need to contact the client immediately. Transparency is important. We can't hide it.
I agree transparency is key, Lucas. But before we call them, shouldn't we explore alternatives? If we call them with just the bad news, they might panic. Maybe we can find a solution first?
That's a fair point. What kind of solution?
Well, is there another supplier who can step in? Or maybe, could we expedite a partial shipment? Like, send 20% of the goods now so they can keep operating and the rest later?
Oh, I like that. The partial shipment idea. We could split it up. Get what we can from the original supplier and source the rest elsewhere, even if it costs a bit more.
Exactly. And then we communicate with the client. We say, there is a delay, but we have already arranged a partial delivery for tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds much better.
It shows we are proactive.
Excellent collaboration. I like how you've built on each other's ideas. Now, let me ask you individually. This job requires working under pressure. Lucas, what happens when a colleague is consistently missing deadlines and it's creating a bottleneck for your work?
I agree with talking to them first. But honestly, I think I'd try to adjust my own workflow to account for it. Like, if I know they're always late, I'd plan around that. Not ideal, but sometimes it's easier than creating conflict.
Interesting. So you would rather adapt than confront the issue?
Initially, yes. I think it's worth trying to make it work before escalating things.
I see. Yuki, do you think there's a risk in confronting a colleague too quickly?
Maybe, but I also think if you approach it the right way, like not accusatory, just curious, it doesn't have to be a fight. I wouldn't want to throw anyone under the bus by going to the manager immediately. I'd try to talk to them privately first. But if the bottleneck continues, I think you have to address it, or the whole team suffers.
That's a diplomatic way to handle it. All right, last question for both of you. Where do you see yourselves in this role a year from now?
A year from now, I'd want to be someone the team can rely on for insights. Success would mean I'm contributing to fewer disruptions.
I'd want to be involved in a process improvement project, using data to identify inefficiencies and actually fix them. Success for me is seeing measurable impact, like reduced costs.
Great answers. Do you have any questions for me?
Just one. What's the biggest challenge the team is facing right now?
Good question. Honestly, it's balancing speed with accuracy. We're growing fast.
That makes sense. And what does the onboarding process look like?
You'd spend the first few weeks shadowing different team members, learning our systems, and getting familiar with our key suppliers. After that, you'd slowly start taking on your own projects with support from the team. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. That sounds like a very supportive environment. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, looking at the clock, I think we've covered everything I needed to see today. Thank you both for jumping into that group exercise with such good energy.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a great experience. Nice meeting you, Yuki.
You too, Lucas. Thanks for the opportunity, Sarah.
We'll be in touch by early next week regarding the next steps. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Okay, that was fascinating. Did you feel the difference in energy?
Completely. It was much more about we than I.
Let's talk about the problem-solving scenario, the late shipment.
This was a perfect example of what to do in a group interview. Lucas had the first idea. Call the client.
It wasn't a bad idea, but it was incomplete. Yuki didn't say, "No, Lucas, that's wrong." She said, "I agree, but maybe we do this first."
She validated him. She invited him into the conversation. And then Lucas listened to her and said, "I like that."
That is the gold standard. You want to show the interviewer that you can make your colleagues better. You aren't competing against them, you are working with them.
But then, we had the individual questions. The bottleneck question.
Lucas struggled here. He said he would just adjust his workflow to avoid conflict with a lazy colleague.
That is a passive answer. It sounds nice. I'm easygoing. But in business, if someone is creating a bottleneck and you don't fix it, you are part of the problem.
Exactly. Yuki's answer was much stronger. She used the phrase, "throw under the bus."
She said she wouldn't throw him under the bus by going to the boss immediately. That shows loyalty.
But she also said she would confront the person privately because the team's performance matters. That shows leadership. She found the balance between being a snitch and being a doormat.
A snitch and a doormat. That is a very colorful way to put it, Mia.
Well, it's true. You have to be in the middle. Assertive, but kind.
Also, notice their questions at the end. Lucas asked about the team's biggest challenge. Yuki asked about onboarding.
Both great questions. Never say I have no questions. It makes you look uninterested. Always have 2 or 3 prepared.
All right, we have covered a huge amount of ground today.
We certainly have. Let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways.
Number 1, vocabulary. Use professional terms like pain points, problems, KPIs, metrics, bottlenecks, delays, and ramp-up period, training time. It changes how people perceive you.
Number 2, the weakness question. If you use a cliche like perfectionism, you must provide a specific system you use to manage it. Otherwise, be more honest about a real skill gap.
Number 3, don't be a martyr. Do not tell a manager you will work 24 hours a day. Tell them you will prioritize and communicate.
And number 4, group interviews are about collaboration. Build on other people's ideas. Don't tear them down.
Interviews are tough. They are nerve-wracking, even for native speakers.
Especially for native speakers sometimes. We get nervous too.
Exactly. But if you prepare, if you practice these answers, you are going to stand out.
Remember to leave your comment on the Genius Jerk versus Friendly Rookie debate. We are really curious to see the results.
And if you found this helpful, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making these episodes for you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Good luck with your interviews.
You've got this. See you next time.